The restaurant was filled with soft music, clinking glasses, and quiet conversations, the kind of place where people celebrated anniversaries and first dates. But at a corner table near the window, two strangers sat alone, both waiting for someone who would never arrive. The woman checked her watch again. 37 minutes late. Her blind date clearly wasn't coming. Across the room, a man sat with a little girl coloring on the tablecloth paper. He had been glancing at the door every few minutes, the same hopeful look fading from his eyes each time it opened. Finally, he stood up, walked slowly toward her table, and leaned closer. "Your blind date didn't show up either," he whispered gently. The woman looked up, slightly irritated at first, until she noticed the quiet kindness in his eyes. What neither of them knew in that moment was that this awkward, unexpected conversation would begin a story neither of them had planned, a story that would change their lives in ways no blind date ever could. And before this story ends, you'll understand why sometimes the person meant for you is the one who never planned to meet you at all. Daniel Carter never liked blind dates. But after 4 years of raising his daughter alone, his sister finally convinced him to try. "Just one dinner," she had said. "You deserve to be happy again." So Daniel showed up. He even arrived early. But an hour later, it was clear his date wasn't coming. His 6-year-old daughter Lily, who insisted on coming along because she didn't want to stay with the babysitter, had already drawn 5 pictures and eaten half the bread basket. "Daddy," Lily whispered, "is your girlfriend late?" Daniel smiled awkwardly. "I don't think she's coming." Lily thought for a moment. "That's rude." Daniel chuckled. Then he noticed someone else. At a table by the window sat a woman who looked completely out of place, not because she didn't belong there, but because everything about her seemed guarded. Elegant black dress. Perfect posture. But her expression carried the same disappointment Daniel felt. Her phone lit up several times, but she ignored it. After watching her check the door again, Daniel finally walked over. "Your blind date didn't show up either," he whispered kindly. She looked up, surprised. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, the kind that noticed everything. "How did you know it was a blind date?" she asked. Daniel shrugged. "Same expression I had 10 minutes ago." For a moment she studied him. Then something unexpected happened. She laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one. "Fair enough," she admitted. Daniel gestured toward Lily. "Mind if we join you? My daughter already decided this dinner is a disaster." The woman glanced at Lily, who waved enthusiastically. "Okay," she said. Her name was Isabella Laurent. But Daniel didn't know that yet. They started talking casually, about bad dates, about Lily's school, about why dating apps seemed designed to embarrass people. Isabella seemed relaxed for the first time all evening. But when Daniel asked what she did for work, she hesitated. "I run a company," she said vaguely. Daniel nodded, uninterested in titles. "That sounds stressful." Isabella looked at him curiously. Most people reacted differently when she mentioned work. Because Isabella Laurent wasn't just someone who ran a company. She was the CEO of one of the largest tech corporations in the country. A billionaire. A woman used to people treating her differently the moment they knew who she was. But Daniel didn't ask which company. He didn't ask how much she earned. He simply asked Lily if she wanted dessert. That was the moment Isabella felt something she hadn't felt in years. Normal. Over the next hour, the three of them talked like old friends. Lily showed Isabella her drawings. Daniel told funny stories about parenting disasters. Isabella even admitted something she rarely confessed. "I've been on 23 blind dates in the last 2 years," she said. Daniel nearly choked on his water. "Seriously?" "Yes." "And none worked?" Isabella shook her head. "Most men don't want me. They want my money." Daniel nodded slowly. That must be exhausting. Isabella watched him carefully. He didn't sound curious. He sounded sympathetic. When dinner ended, Daniel stood up. Well, he said, this was the best failed blind date I've ever had. Isabella smiled. Mine too. They exchanged numbers casually. Neither expected much. But something had quietly begun. Over the next few months, Daniel and Isabella started seeing each other more often. At first it was coffee. Then walks in the park. Then Lily insisted Isabella come to her school play. Daniel still didn't know how wealthy Isabella was. She never mentioned it. For the first time in her life, she wanted someone to know her without the weight of her title. But secrets have a way of revealing themselves. One afternoon Daniel arrived at Isabella's office building to pick her up for lunch. He froze when he saw the massive company logo on the glass tower. Employees rushed around nervously. Assistants whispered. Then someone noticed him. Are you here to see Ms. Laurent? Daniel nodded. The receptionist's eyes widened. Wait, you're Daniel? Within minutes, Daniel was escorted to the top floor. The doors opened into a luxurious office overlooking the entire city. Isabella stood by the window. Surprise, she said softly. Daniel stared at her. You're the CEO? Yes. And, billionaire? She sighed. Yes. For a moment Daniel didn't say anything. Isabella felt the familiar fear creeping in, the moment when everything changed. So, Daniel said slowly. You've been hiding this? I didn't want you to treat me differently. Daniel thought for a moment. Then he shrugged. Okay. Isabella blinked. Okay? That explains why you insisted on paying for coffee. She laughed in disbelief. You're not upset? Daniel shook his head. You're still the woman who listened to Lily talk about dinosaurs for 2 hours. That night Isabella realized something profound. Daniel didn't love her success. He loved her. Months later, they returned to the same restaurant where they first met. Lily sat between them happily eating dessert. Isabella looked around the room. You know, she said quietly, our blind dates not showing up was the best thing that ever happened to me. Daniel smiled. Me too. Lily looked confused. What blind dates? Daniel laughed. Long story. Isabella squeezed his hand gently. Sometimes life doesn't give you the person you expected to meet. Instead, it gives you the person who was meant to find you all along. And sometimes, the best love stories don't begin with perfect plans. They begin with two people being left behind, at the exact same table.